At the start of the movie, we are introduced to a 40-year-old woman named Hailey, a professor. She's driving to attend a business conference when her husband, Russell, calls her. He checks on her well-being and excitedly suggests they plan a vacation together once she returns. However, Hailey appears uninterested and firmly declines, saying she will be too tired after her trip. In reality, Hailey was lying to him. Upon arriving at the hotel, the receptionist greets her as Mrs. Allen, though her husband's name is Russell. This raises a question. Who is Allen? The hotel manager then instructs an employee named Dave to escort Hailey to her Black Diamond suite, which was apparently booked by her husband, Alan. This hints at Hailey's infidelity. During the walk, Dave, a newlywed employee, strikes up a conversation with Hailey and asks her for tips on maintaining a happy married life. Feeling uneasy, Hailey advises him to never leave his wife, no matter the circumstances, and to make small gestures like bringing her a flower every day. When Hailey reaches her suite, she finds an envelope waiting for her. The note inside directs her to the washroom, where another envelope awaits. She follows the instructions, and the second note informs her about a surprise waiting in the closet. Excited, Hailey opens the closet and discovers a box containing a blindfold, a lanyard, and handcuffs. The note suggests she wear the blindfold and prepare for an exciting evening. Following the instructions, Hailey cuffs herself to the bed. Moments later, a man enters the room and starts touching her. Observing his hands, it becomes evident that he is an older man. Initially, Hailey seems to enjoy it, but things take a darker turn as the man becomes forceful. After this unsettling encounter, the old man leaves the room, and the scene shifts to reveal Alan tied to a chair. It is then revealed that the man who orchestrated this entire situation was none other than Hailey's husband, Russell. He had lured both Hailey and Alan to the hotel through deception. Before Hailey's arrival, Russell had already restrained Alan. Russell then addresses Alan, saying, "Now I'll untie you so you can leave." But as for Hailey, Russell made it clear to Alan, "Holly must not know I orchestrated all of this. She should believe that no one else is here except you and her. But remember, if you try to act smart, I'll send your wife and daughter straight to the stars in a NASA rocket. I have them both, and I won't hesitate to follow through." Russell then warned Alan not to leave the suite or inform Holly or the police. "If you do, your family will pay the price," Russell threatened, placing a phone in Alan's pocket before leaving. After Russell left, Alan hesitantly went to Holly's room and opened the door. Holly, visibly upset, assumed Alan was behind everything. She was furious, and despite Alan's apologies, she refused to listen and tried to leave. At that moment, Russell called Alan again. He instructed, "Don't let Holly leave at any cost, or you'll be responsible for your wife and daughter's deaths." Alan, in desperation, convinced Holly to stay, trying to cover up what had happened and deflect her suspicions. While Alan struggled to keep Holly calm, she received a call from Russell. During the conversation, there was a knock on the door. Alan opened it to find a hotel security guard, who mentioned that loud noises were heard coming from the room. Meanwhile, Russell revealed to Holly during the call that he knew about her affair with Alan. Russell warned her, saying, "By getting involved with Alan, you've put yourself in danger. He's nothing but a fraud and a serial cheater. He's done this to many women before, and when the affairs ended, those women disappeared. To this day, the police haven't been able to trace them." Holly, now terrified and guilt-ridden, realized her marriage was in jeopardy. She decided to follow Russell's instructions to escape the situation. The first step was to leave the hotel quietly without alerting Alan. However, Alan caught on and confronted her, asking what the call was about. Holly lied, saying her husband was checking on her well-being. Determined to keep Holly in the suite, Alan suggested giving her a relaxing massage and even took her phone to prevent her from contacting anyone. Despite Alan's efforts, Holly was deeply uncomfortable. She abruptly stood up and claimed she was going to take a shower. Instead of heading to the bathroom, she went to the balcony and screamed for help, but her cries went unanswered as there was no one outside to hear her. It became evident that Russell was manipulating both Alan and Holly. On one hand, he instructed Holly to leave, and on the other, he ordered Alan to ensure she stayed. Meanwhile, Alan heard a strange noise coming from elsewhere in the room and went to investigate. Alan breaks Russell's rule by failing to keep Holly in the suite and by attempting to leave himself. Russell, who had warned him earlier, immediately retaliates. Alan receives a chilling photo of his wife, Lydia, with a knife held to her throat. The photo shakes Alan to his core, and he pleads for Russell's mercy, calling him in desperation. Russell coldly instructs Alan to check the balcony. Reluctantly, Alan moves toward the locked bedroom door, but he notices Holly freshening up in the washroom. Her behavior only adds to her suspicion of Alan, making her think he's a deranged psycho hiding something sinister. Despite Holly's presence, Alan breaks the door lock and proceeds to the living room, where he receives a message on Holly's phone, now in Russell's possession. The message threatens that for every mistake Alan makes, Russell will cut off one of Lydia's fingers. A bottle of sleeping pills is placed conspicuously on the table, a clear hint from Russell that Alan must drug Holly to maintain control. Realizing Russell's sinister game, Alan begins searching the suite for a hidden room, suspecting it might hold some answers. Meanwhile, Holly, noticing the sleeping pills, secretly decides to drug Alan instead. Alan attempts to defuse the situation by inviting Holly to the balcony for a drink. He mixes the sleeping pills into her drink, but Holly declines, requesting white wine instead. Alan heads inside to fetch the wine, secretly adding the sleeping pills to her glass. However, Holly, determined to stay ahead of Alan, mixes the pills into his drink as well. With both drinks now spiked, Alan and Holly return to the balcony. Just as they are about to take their first sips, there's a knock at the door. Alan, cautious and on edge, grabs a knife before opening the door. Standing there is Dave, the hotel employee, delivering food to their suite. Alan sets the tray on the table, and the two begin their tense dinner. Each plate holds a steak, and both have a knife in hand. The atmosphere grows increasingly fraught as they eye each other warily, each hiding their true intentions. As they sipped their drinks during dinner, the tension between Holly and Alan escalated into a heated argument. Both started blaming each other for their predicament. Alan lashed out, accusing Holly of forcing him into this situation, while Holly retorted that Alan had been the one to manipulate her into starting a relationship despite knowing she was married. Their argument was interrupted by another knock at the door. Alan received a chilling message from Russell, informing him that Holly had secretly tipped Dave, the hotel employee, to call 911 during the food delivery. Alarmed, Alan opened the door, only to see Russell holding a threatening gesture towards Alan's wife on a screen. The sight left Alan visibly distressed. Holly, seizing the moment, tried to seduce Alan to extract the truth from him. When her attempts failed, she put a knife to his throat, demanding answers about his true identity and intentions. To keep up appearances, Alan pretended to kiss Holly, knowing full well that Russell was monitoring them. Slowly, he began whispering the truth. Her husband, Russell, had kidnapped his family and was forcing him to act against his will. As their tense exchange continued, the drugs in their drinks began taking effect, and both collapsed unconscious. When Alan regained consciousness, he found himself handcuffed to a bed, while Holly sat nearby, repeatedly accusing him of being a serial killer. She insisted that her husband, Russell, would return with the police to save her. Alan, desperate to clear his name, stumbled into the next room and was shocked to find Russell tied to a chair, bloodied and incapacitated. Russell was unable to speak. His tongue had been removed. Panicking, Alan handed him a pen and paper, urging him to write down who was behind this and what had happened. But Russell, struggling to stay alive, couldn't provide much clarity. Alan brought Holly to see Russell, hoping it would prove his innocence. However, seeing her husband in such a state, Holly broke down in tears, accusing Alan of being the one responsible. Alan vehemently denied her accusations, claiming he had no hand in Russell's suffering. Suddenly, Russell slumped over and died. Holly, horrified, noticed a syringe in Alan's hand and immediately assumed he had killed her husband. Alan, bewildered, denied the accusation. Holly then discovered a note clenched in Russell's hand. She quickly hid it from Alan, suspecting it held important information. Just then, Alan's phone rang. The caller was the mastermind orchestrating the entire ordeal. The mysterious man revealed that only one of them, Holly or Alan, could survive. The other would face excruciating punishment and death. He coldly declared that one of them would have to kill the other to secure their own freedom. The killer also instructs Holly to inform her that her daughter is under his watchful eye, implying she shouldn't attempt anything foolish. As Holly processes this, she remembers the note she had taken from her husband, Russell. Opening it, she sees a single word written, safe. However, before she can decipher its meaning, Alan appears, holding a knife and intent on killing her. Believing that eliminating her is the only way to ensure his survival and reunite with his family. Just as the tension escalates, there's a sudden knock at the door. It's the hotel management team, accompanied by security. They inform Alan that a staff member named Des has gone missing, raising their suspicions. Holly seizes the distraction to access a hidden safe in the room, cleverly using a spring system she had brought from her home. However, the safe only contains a storage card, leaving her puzzled about its purpose. Meanwhile, the manager and security personnel question Alan about Des's whereabouts. Alan denies knowing anything about him, but the team insists on speaking with Holly. Alan reluctantly asks Holly to cooperate, knowing that refusing could jeopardize his family's safety. Once alone again, Holly remains deeply suspicious of Alan. She demands answers, questioning his true role in this twisted game. Alan, sensing her mistrust, reveals more about his plight. Every mistake he made led to a punishment from the mastermind, including receiving a severed finger from the security guard. He admits he's being manipulated as much as she is, and insists that Russell, not him, had been the one to assault her earlier. Alan explains that he had no choice but to obey Russell, as his wife and daughter were still in grave danger, and the real mastermind was someone else entirely. However, Holly's mistrust doesn't waver. When Alan approaches her to plead his innocence, a struggle ensues. In a moment of panic, Holly accidentally stabs Alan. Blood begins to pour from his wound, and Alan, realizing the severity of the injury, knows he cannot call for medical assistance without breaking the killer's rules. With his family's lives still hanging in the balance, Alan accepts his fate. Soon after, he succumbs to his injuries and dies. As Alan's lifeless body slumps to the ground, his phone begins ringing. Hesitant, Holly picks it up. The caller, the mysterious killer, informs her that she's just one step away from her freedom. To achieve it, she must destroy the phone in a microwave. He also tantalizes her with the promise of answers, directing her to room 513, where she will learn the truth about who orchestrated this nightmarish ordeal and why. Following his instructions, Holly retrieves the key to room 513 from her husband's pocket. She then places the phone in the microwave and watches as it sparks and shatters, symbolizing her commitment to escape this torment. With trembling hands, she makes her way to room 513, desperate for the answers that might finally put an end to this horrifying game. Upon entering room 513, Holly finds a setup of multiple monitors, showing live footage and recordings of her and Alan's every move. As she scans the room, her eyes fall on a woman tied to a chair with her eyes blindfolded. It's Lydia, Alan's wife. Holly rushes to Lydia, unties her, and assures her that she's safe now. But her relief is short-lived when she notices a monitor displaying old photos and videos stored on the memory card she had taken from the safe. Curiosity turns to dread as she discovers CCTV files exposing the shocking truth. Lydia was in on the entire plan, orchestrated alongside Russell. Confronted by Holly, Lydia admits the truth. She reveals that she and Russell had planned the entire scheme to exact revenge on Alan for his past infidelities. Lydia confesses that she was the one behind the disappearances of Alan's former girlfriends. However, her jealousy boiled over when she saw Alan with Holly, leading to her desire to eliminate both Alan and Holly. As the chilling confession unfolds, Holly notices Dave's lifeless body in the corner of the room. She quickly pieces together that Lydia had killed both Russell and Dave. Lydia confirms this, explaining that Russell refused to go along with her plan to kill Holly, leading her to kill him as well. On a monitor, Holly sees footage of the hotel management entering Alan's suite, where Russell's body now lies. Lydia smirks and tells Holly that her fingerprints are all over the crime scene, making her the prime suspect. Lydia then destroys the memory card, the only piece of evidence that could exonerate Holly. Despair takes hold of Holly as she realizes there's no way to prove her innocence. She regrets her mistakes, lamenting how her affair has led her to this point of no return. But in a desperate surge of survival instinct, Holly attacks Lydia. A fierce struggle ensues, and Holly ultimately kills Lydia in self-defense. Just as Holly catches her breath, the door bursts open, and two security guards storm in. They demand Holly surrender, guns drawn. Overwhelmed and cornered, Holly drops to her knees as the screen fades to black. This dramatic and suspense-filled story, Affair to Die, concludes with an unforgettable twist. Friends, if you enjoyed this thrilling explanation, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more gripping movie recaps. Thank you for watching.